Hello, my name is Sigurt Vitols. I'm the EFRAG Sustainability Reporting Technical Expert Group Acting Vice Chair, and I'm a senior researcher at the Science Center Berlin. And I'm pleased to present to you today glimpses into EFRAG's draft ESRS S1 Own Workforce Standard, which I helped to write along with a number of other people in the EFRAG task force. So just very briefly, what does S1 Own Workforce cover? This is the scope. These are the types of employees and workers that are covered by S1, so-called affected stakeholder group. S1 covers employees which are defined as individuals who are in an employment relationship with the undertaking according to national law or practice, so in line with the GRI definition of employees. But it also includes non-employee workers, specifically two kinds of non-employee workers. These are workers who are often used in the normal operations of the companies, and they include self-employed workers, that's individual contractors who supply labor to the undertaking, and so-called agency workers, workers provided by undertakings primarily engaged in employment activities. So there's a diverse set of workers covered by this standard. So where does the guidance for what's in this standard come from? Well, there's a basis in the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, the CSRD, as in the other standards. And in particular, there's Article 29A, which states that the due diligence process should be reported on, as well as principal, actual, or potential adverse impacts with regards, in this case, to own workforce. Secondly, Article 29B lists a number of social factors that should be considered. I won't list them all in this brief introduction, but they include social matters in the equal treatment and opportunities for all category, as well as the working conditions category. And Article 29B also lists a number of international and European human rights instruments which cover human rights, fundamental freedoms, democratic principles, and standards. So these two articles very much guide what is in S1 Own Workforce. But of course, there's much more detail in the standard on these issues. So what we have here are the first 5 disclosure requirements in S1 Own Workforce. And these are very much related to the due diligence process as defined by the OECD and the United Nations Guiding Principles. There are 5 disclosure requirements here which cover policies related to own workforce, processes for engaging with own workers and workers' representatives, processes to remediate negative impacts, and channels for own workers to raise concerns, taking action, and also targets regarding material negative impacts. And this standard also covers general disclosures on covered in ESRS 2 on interests of views of stakeholders and material impacts, risks, and opportunities. So these disclosure requirements are mandatory for all undertakings with at least 250 employees, and they cover material impacts, risks, and opportunities. Secondly, there's a number of metrics contained in S1 Own Workforce. So the first set are mandatory for all undertakings with at least 250 employees. That's S1 6 through S1 9. And you can see with the little colored boxes where the inspiration comes from for these disclosure requirements. As you can see, all 4 of these disclosure requirements are based on GRI disclosures. We have another one from SASB. And there are also ILO norms, in particular the 5 fundamental work-related rights, which would cover collective bargaining and social dialogue. And there's also a sustainable finance disclosure regulation indicator that's required in diversity. So these first 4 metrics are mandatory for all companies with over 250. There's another 2 disclosure requirements dealing with adequate wages and social protection, which are mandatory given in an explanation, so companies can simply explain that they have adequate wages for all their own workforce and social protection. And then we have a final bunch which are subject to materiality assessment that covers with persons with disabilities, training skills development, health and safety indicators, work-life balance, male-female pay gap and CEO pay ratio, and human rights incidents and complaints. These are all, based at least partially on GRI disclosures, and the Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulation also requires a number of these disclosure points, as well as NILO NOMR. So that in a nutshell is S1 Own Workforce. And yeah, I would encourage you, if you're interested, to look at our longer video on this. Thank you very much for your attention today.